Hi everyone, welcome to Live Interactive English. I'm Mike, and we're talking, as I'm sure you remember, about the amazing world of AI-generated art. That's right, artists are now computers, and computers are now artists, and they're making art. They learn about art like an art student at school would, and then they take those ideas and those influences and they produce their own art. You, the user of the program, can kind of guide them, and this AI program will produce art in a few different styles that you can then pick from. So, because my friend is having a birthday soon, I'm gonna make a personal AI-generated piece of art for her. Now, I have to think of the influences. Well, I know she loves some of those classic paintings, especially some of the classic portraits of the beautiful ladies, the beautiful women of history. So I've decided to put in, of course, Mona Lisa, right? Da Vinci's famous painting, probably the most famous painting in the world. That's in there. And another one that's very popular, I think they even made a movie about it, Vermeer's The Girl with the Pearl Earring. You know that one? Yeah, I think a lot of people think, didn't Scarlett Johansson have the pearl? I think she did. Anyways, now the other thing, and to make it a little more modern, a little, different, a little more exciting, she really likes punk music too. So I'm gonna put in some punk music styles, artwork from music and photographs, and see what the program produces. So it's been working on it, and if I hit this, I can see the, whoa! Okay, well I have the final product here. It's interesting, to say the least. It looks like Mona Lisa. She's got a big tattoo of a spider on her face. It's kind of an edgy look. Her hair is now a mohawk. It's a rainbow mohawk, and the pearl earring is now in her nose instead of her ear. So she is the punk rock girl, the punk rock Mona Lisa with the pearl earring in her nose. It's interesting. I'm not sure she'll like it, but I'm pretty sure this is the only one that exists in the whole world. So, very original. Let's learn more about the amazing world of AI-generated art.
Not everyone is happy about the growth of AI-generated art. To some, it isn't art at all, because the AI depends on learning from the data, the artworks, that it has access to. The AI isn't creating on its own. Others argue that the same is true of humans, and that AI is no different from any other artist in this respect.
Yeah, so the amazing world of AI-generated art. That's what we're talking about. Let's get into our article today and find out about it. Now, this article begins with a little bit of a different point of view on the whole idea. It says, not everyone is happy about the growth of AI-generated art. Yeah, it's interesting when these things happen, but of course, when computers take over jobs, it will make some people upset. I'm sure there are a lot of taxi drivers or truck drivers who are unhappy that driverless cars are coming along, for example, and I think they even have machines that now can make really good food for you. Not just warm up your cheap food, but make fancy food. And of course, lots of chefs would be unhappy about that. They might lose their jobs. But with art, it becomes even more personal. It says, to some, it isn't art at all, because the AI depends on learning from the data, the artworks, that it has access to. Well, that's a pretty good point. Sure, a young student can buy a book of great works of art and study it and learn it, but they probably won't copy it. If they do, people will say, hey, that looks like a Da Vinci. You're kind of copying the style. They will take it and use their own personality and their own experiences to then produce their own art. Is the computer doing that? Is the AI doing that? That's a good question. Here we have this word growth, talking about the growth of an industry, the growth of AI art. Growth is basically the noun form of grow. When you are getting bigger as a young kid, when you're going from a younger age to an older age, from a shorter young person to a taller person, you are growing. That is growth. Growth is the act of growing or getting bigger. We can also use it, though, to talk about things that don't really grow, like the growth of the internet, the growth of social media. These things started off kind of small in a certain place with only a few people using it or doing it, and now everyone does it. So that is growing or growth in a way that's a little bit different from a plant or a person or an animal growing. For example, good leadership was key to the growth of the company. The growth, the success, the expansion of the company was largely because of good leadership. Back to the article, it says the AI isn't creating on its own. Yeah, it's kind of just sort of copying other people, but is there a real original idea from the AI in the art? Or is it just copying and kind of combining other people's work in a very interesting way, but not really in an original way? Is there any from the soul of the artist? Well, it's a computer, so is that even possible? Others argue that the same is true of humans, and that AI is no different from any other artist in this respect. Here we have this word respect, in all respects. Well, to respect someone is to admire them, to look up to them, to think of them in a good way. When we talk about all respects, when we're using it as a noun, we're not really talking about respect, that sort of feeling that you have towards another person. Generally, with this use of respect, we say in all respects or in most respects. We're basically saying here in all areas, in all ways. He was my favorite person in all respects. I really like this person because of everything, right? In most respects, this is the best car you can buy. Sure, there might be other ones that are a little faster, a little more valuable or whatever, but if you look at most of the grades, if you look at most of the things we think about, this will do it. This will be good in most of those categories or in most respects. For example, Muhammad Ali was a hero in all respects. Of course, he was a great boxer, but he was also a great champion of civil rights and world peace and things like that. So he was someone you could really admire in all areas. Let's take a break.
Hello， 大家好，我是 Hanny。第一天的课文介绍了 AI 影像生成工具的运作方式。那么今天要来看看人们对于 AI 生成艺术的不同观点。课文写到说，并非所有的人都对 AI 生成艺术的发展感到开心。像 Mike 老师说，这就像主厨在面对能够创造出美味精致餐点的机器，他们可能也不会开心。那么 Chef，C-H-E-F。这个字可以用来指厨师，可能是餐厅啊、饭店的厨师，或者是指主厨。好，那对于有些人来说 ，AI 生成艺术根本不算艺术，因为 AI 是从它取得的这个艺术品资料当中来学习，并不是靠自己创作。而有些人则主张说，人类也是这样啊，所以 AI 在这方面跟其他艺术家没什么不同。来看单字 growth， 它表示发展或成长。那么 respect。这个名词表示方面或是着眼点，我们常常会用 in 什么什么 respect 来表达在什么方面。那么 Mike 老师解释单字时用到 category，C-A-T-E-G-O-R-Y 这个名词它表示种类、类别。那这边一个重点，我们进入文法时间。好，我们来看这个重点是 some others 来列举说没有限定范围的人事物。那么 some 和 other 它可以当形容词，那么用法则是 some 名词 other 名词那我们为了避免重复名词呢，后面这个 other 名词我们常常也会用代名词 others 来代替。举例来说 ，Some people like summer。Others prefer winter。有些人喜欢夏天，有些人比较喜欢冬天。那有没有注意到我们这边就是用 others 去取代 other people？ 好，再比较一个用法，就是说群体当中只有2种情况时，那就必须加上定冠词。那句型就会写作 some the others 去表达有些怎么样，其他怎么样。例如 Some of the books are in Chinese, the others are in English。有些书是中文的，其他则是英文的。那我们接着到课文中。
Critics also claim that AI art is cheap and has no value because it is simply too easy. It isn't created step by step, by a human or by hand. Yet the same is true of photography. And just as artists of an earlier age welcomed photography, some artists today are taking up the challenge of using AI to create unique works of art. These artists find that to create successful digital paintings, they have to work together with the AI in a process of exploring and experimenting. It isn't simple at all. At the heart of this debate is an important question. Will AI replace human artists? Or will humans learn to use AI as a tool to create great art? Only time will tell.
So yes, it's a question. Is art created by a computer program really art? Sure, that program's smart. It's studied all the great art from the past, but is it actually creating something original and new like we would expect a human artist to? Well, I don't know. Let's move on and see some of the other questions and things that people might wonder about AI art. It says critics also claim that AI art is cheap and has no value because it is simply too easy. Okay, I mean, we kind of have this feeling about a lot of things, right? If I talk about a handmade piece of clothing versus a piece of clothing that was made in a factory, a lot of people might say, oh, that clothing made by hand, sure, that has more value. A person worked on it. It took longer. It might be better, more well made. And of course, the person who made it has many years of skill and experience, which is why handmade clothes are generally more expensive than the clothes made in factories. We consider them as having more value. And when we talk about the value of something, well, the most basic way of measuring something's value is by how much it costs, its dollar price. That is how, of course, we judge the value of things when we buy them in stores. But things can have other values, not just a financial or monetary value about money. Your family has value. I'm not saying you would sell your grandmother for a certain price. No, of course you wouldn't. But she's important to you. It brings something good into your life. So family has value, friends has value, a good education, having good health. These also have values. We don't put a money price on it, a dollar sign on it. Not in that way, but they are still important, and if we lost them, our lives would be worse. So they do have value, in some cases, a very high value, but not always measured in dollars. For example, our house has doubled in value since we bought it. That is about dollars. That means the house has become more expensive. So, is art created by a machine as valuable? Does it have the same value as something created by a human? Good question. It isn't created step by step by a human or by hand. These are all things that art created by artists will have true about it. It's made step by step, it's made by humans, and it's made by hand. But, as the article reminds us, yet the same is true of photography. An artist could sell, a photographer could be an artist. They could sell a photograph for a lot of money. They're using a machine. They're not taking time, and kind of anyone can do it. That's an interesting point. And just as artists of an earlier age welcomed photography, some artists today are taking up the challenge of using AI to create unique works of art. Yeah, that's true. About 150 years ago, when photography first came along, many artists did sort of think it was interesting and very modern and new science, but I'm sure there were other artists out there who were like, who's going to pay for a painting now that you can use a camera? So there are always people who can see either the good or the bad side of these new things. But some artists are embracing or using this new technology to create AI art. It says these artists find that to create successful digital paintings, they have to work together with the AI in a process of exploring and experimenting. It isn't simple at all. I think you could probably look at it that way. Kind of like with a camera. You can take a camera and just take a picture, or you can use all the different little tools on the camera that allow you to make different kinds of pictures or use things that change the color of your picture. Use computer software to make your picture more interesting. So people can use the technology in creative ways to explore new ways of making art. To explore something is kind of to discover things that you didn't know about. When you go out into the world, especially in a place you've never been before, you are exploring. Other people might have been there before. Maybe people have lived there for hundreds of years, like if you visit a new city. But for you, it's new, you're looking around, you're maybe having a journey, you're traveling in some way, and you're also discovering and experiencing things for the first time. For example, Dr. Martin is exploring how social media affects teenagers. He's finding out about it, doing research, and learning about it. And one way that scientists explore new ideas or new areas is by doing experiments. To do an experiment, that's a noun, or experiment as a verb, that's basically to do a very organized, planned test in order to learn things. A scientist has an idea, but they can't be sure the idea is true or works unless they do an experiment. They set it up, they test it, and they should hopefully get the results they wanted. If they don't, they have to go back and think about it again. For example, in today's science class, we experimented with different chemicals. We did different tests and saw how the chemicals behaved and reacted in different situations. And we learned by doing it. And so the article goes on to say, at the heart of this debate is an important question. Will AI replace human artists, or will humans learn to use AI as a tool to create great art? It's a big question, and a lot of different areas of life that are being affected by AI will have to sort of face that question and deal with it. But for right now, we don't know the answer, so as the article ends, it says, only time will tell. In other words, we'll have to wait for the future to arrive before we really know. But it makes for an interesting debate. To debate, we can use it as a noun or as a verb, is to kind of have an argument, have a discussion with two different ideas. Now, you're not arguing, you're not upset, you're not angry, you're using logic and reason and good ideas to kind of fight and compete against the other person who has different ideas from you. And by doing it and maybe having people listen to your ideas, they can judge who has the better idea, who is making the better point. For example, the two men had a heated debate over gun control. Heated meaning emotional, and debate, of course, one of them probably thought, more laws for guns. The guns are dangerous, we need more laws. The other guy probably thought, no, it's the people who are bad, not the guns. That's a debate that still goes on in America today. Let's look at our what do you think question. What do you think? Should AI-generated art be considered real art? Why or why not? That's a tough question. I will give you an answer. In my opinion, AI-generated art is not real art for several reasons. First, most artists have to really struggle to discover their creativity. They have to pull it out of their emotions and experiences in their own lives. And I don't think AI computers can have those human experiences that artists can. What about you guys? What is your opinion on this debate? Have a chat about that, and we'll see you back here with more great stuff coming up soon. Bye-bye!
批评者宣称 AI 艺术廉价而且没有价值，因为它实在太简单了，不是靠人啊，或是靠手一步一步创作出来。但摄影也是一样啊。那就像早期的艺术家迎接摄影术一样，如今有些艺术家也开始使用 AI 来创造独特的艺术作品。他们发现，想要创作成功的数位绘画，必须在探索与实验的过程中跟 AI 合作，这其实一点都不简单哎。那补充一下，如果我们要表达说迎接机会、迎接改变、挑战等等，你可以用到 embrace 这个动词 ，embrace，embrace 它有拥抱，它也有欣然接受的意思。再看单字 value 它表示价值、价格或是重要性。Mike 老师解释单字时，他用到 monetary 这个字 ，monetary，monetary 是形容金钱方面的或是货币的。再来看到 explore， 它是动词，表示探索或是探究。那么 experiment 它表示实验、试验。 这时候是当名词。那么如果是当动词，像课文的用法，我们念作 experiment， 它表示进行试验或是实验的意思。好，课文最后写到，这场争论的核心是一个重要的问题，也就是 AI 会取代人类艺术家吗？或者是人类会学会使用 AI 来作为创造伟大艺术的工具吗？其实只有时间会说明一切。我们看到 debate 这个字可以当名词或动词，表达争论、辩论。那 Mike 老师认为说，艺术家结合自身经验跟创造力，这其实是 AI 无法取代的。同学们怎么看呢？我们补充一下 creativity，creativity 表示创意或创造力。那这边一个重点，我们进入文法时间。好，我们来看这个重点是 Only time will tell， 表示说只有时间能证明，用来表达事情发展要经过一段时间才会知道结果。那可以独立使用，或者是接名词子句。举例来说 ，Only time will tell if he made the right decision。只有时间能证明他做的是不是正确决定。好，那以上是今天的讲解，同学别走开，马上回来哦。
Not everyone is happy about the growth of AI-generated art. To some, it isn't art at all, because the AI depends on learning from the data, the artworks, that it has access to. The AI isn't creating on its own. Others argue that the same is true of humans, and that AI is no different from any other artist in this respect. Critics also claim that AI art is cheap and has no value because it is simply too easy. It isn't created step by step, by a human or by hand. Yet the same is true of photography. And just as artists of an earlier age welcomed photography, some artists today are taking up the challenge of using AI to create unique works of art. These artists find that to create successful digital paintings, they have to work together with the AI in a process of exploring and experimenting. It isn't simple at all. At the heart of this debate is an important question. Will AI replace human artists, or will humans learn to use AI as a tool to create great art? Only time will tell.
Hi everyone, I'm Stephen.
I'm Vivian.
We're going to play a game called Guess the Bear. Each of us has 3 words or phrases on these cards. We're going to read 2 sentence examples for each one, but we're going to say the word bear instead of the actual word. Okay, so you have 1 minute to guess all 3. So we're going to start the timer right now. All right, this first one is a verb, 1 word. Number 1, Sally likes to bear with new fashion styles. Number 2, dangerous chemicals aren't something a teenager should bear with.
Experiment?
Oh my god, good job. Yes. I didn't think that was pretty difficult. Okay, this is a noun, 1 word. You must understand this problem from all bears in order to solve it. Number 2, some bears of the essay's point were lost in translation.
Point? Can you read that again?
Some bears of the essay's point were lost in translation.
Skip this.
Okay, this is a noun, 1 word. Number 1, cars quickly lose their bear. Number 2, stocks have risen in bear since June.
Value.
There you go. Okay, this is the other one, noun, 1 word. You must understand this problem from all bears in order to solve it. Some bears of the essay's point were lost in translation.
Sides?
This was really hard. Okay, this is super
was it?
difficult. It was respect, as in a noun. Okay, so you must understand this problem from all respects in order to solve it. In some respects of the essay's point were lost in translation. I would not have gotten that one.
Was not even close.
Yeah.
Okay, are you ready?
I'm ready.
1 minute on the clock.
Okay,
Let's go.
Let's do it.
This one's a noun, 1 word. The controversial topic sparked a big bear. The politicians had a heated bear before the election.
Argument.
Close.
Debate.
Yes,
Okay.
good job.
Okay.
So this one's a verb, 1 word. We
Okay.
bared the national park's many trails. When I go to a new city, I love to go out and bear.
Explore.
Yeah, nice.
Okay,
so this last one is a noun, 1 word. She showed a lot of personal bear after going to therapy. Population bear can be responsible for climate change.
Okay, this one's pretty easy. When you go to these places, usually you get better So you're increasing something, so it's growth.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
I was going to be really embarrassed if that wasn't correct.
Yeah, she showed a lot of personal growth after going to therapy. Population growth can be responsible for climate change. You did a great job with these.
I know, I did. I think what was the first one you did again?
Debate.
Yeah.
Controversial topics sparked a big debate.
Usually when you talk about politics, it's usually debating.
Yeah. You said argue, I think, was the first guess.
That's because I like
it
to
was
argue.
pretty close.
Because I like to argue. I like to argue instead of debate.
Yeah.
See you next time.